Okay, we're at, looks like 6:32, so let's open the January 25th meeting of the Town of Rutland Planning Board. And first up, we have
The
minutes.
what meeting?
That's what he said. I think he said it was.
You said January.
Oh, we're looking.
February.
Sorry, February 8th, I was looking at the
The
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, okay. It's all right.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So,
Move to
minutes,
adjourn then.
fine. Minutes of January 25th.
I make a motion to accept January 25th minutes.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, comments, changes? No. Then, all in favor, I guess we have to do roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Marilyn?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Norm? Aye. Minutes. A&Rs, we have none. We do have a couple of notes or notices from, one from Holden, one from Princeton, I think it is. Anybody, any interest in those?
I have interest, but it's not with this department. It was with the Ag Commission.
Okay,
That was the one from Holden.
okay.
And maybe,
We don't require a permit to have chickens, do we, out here?
no.
I didn't think so.
Say that again?
We don't require a permit to have
Oh.
chickens.
We have chickens across the street, so.
We are a right-to-farm community.
Isn't Holden also?
Yes. But,
But limited.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
To chickens.
Okay, item 3, removal from chapter 61A, property on Campbell Street, owned by Shirley Warren.
This,
There was one from Paxton too, isn't it?
Yeah.
The blue one, I mean, Princeton.
Princeton.
yeah,
Oh, the accessory apartment.
yeah.
How about,
I guess I'll throw my hat in the ring. I think we should buy this. It's $120,000.
For
I second that.
3 point something acres.
3 acres. It's not far from the center of town. I think it's a good. I think it's a good requirement for the potential recreation and conservation for the town of Rutland. The money, which is always the problem from Rutland, I think it's a one-for-one transfer. My understanding is the sale from the property next to Dunkin' Donuts is approximately $129,000. This property is listed at $120,000. I know there's procedures to make that happen, and I don't know all of those procedures, but I think we as a board, because this land is a good. I think it's the 3 acres is useful, maybe for ball fields, soccer fields, something else that the town might use, and we never have an opportunity to buy property in this town. I think this is the opportunity to pull the trigger and do it.
Unfortunately, it's not the open piece of property that Mr. Jordan mows. That's the 13 acres that's behind the house. This is up, and if at all possible, can we bring a GIS map up of it and put on the wetlands delineation, please?
it looks like at least half of the land is wetland.
Yeah, we have,
That's what it shows on here, but I want to see what DEP, or what it shows on
I
that.
couldn't find a GIS. All I could find was what is in the document, so maybe I'm missing something.
So right there, that's what it shows here, but I want what the town sees. When you, can you,
yeah, let me see if I can access. the
If you can
GIS
access
without
it.
losing what I have here.
okay, sorry.
If I lose that, I should be-
Because this has not come before us for, A&R.
Right, not yet. So, these half of our packet is the paper.
I'll ask the board, was that document that's in the packet, so they were looking to break it up into two pieces of acre-and-a-half property?
Into one piece containing 3-point-something acres.
Okay,
Because in all, they've got what, 50, 60 acres there?
Oh, no, 100 and something acres, I believe. It's
152,
both sides of the road.
Okay.
It's on Campbell
And Brintnal.
and Brintnal. And on Brintnal, it goes down to the swamp, to the rail trail. Yeah.
so Dick, what you're saying is that lot 5 and 6 that is part of this 61A breakout really isn't conducive to what we could use it possibly for the town, is that what you're sort of saying? Because there's so much wetlands?
That's why I want DEP wetlands on here and to show it.
Okay.
I'm waiting for that layer to load. Can you folks just tell us whether you're seeing this or not? Jim,
I'm sorry, say that again.
I just want to verify
Dave?
that you're seeing the GIS map.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm good. Yeah, I can see it.
All right, thank you. It's
I
just a
see
check.
all the,
Okay,
I
thank
see
you.
all of the yellow, and I just, I'm trying to take this map that they're showing it and match it up with
It
the
is
locus to
strange
what you've got
because-
right now.
So,
When I first brought it up at home, it covered it. It went right up to the road.
Oh, really?
so am I in the right area?
Yes, you are. No. Yes, it's the curvature, yeah. I believe it's gonna be down near the curvature.
Yeah. So that line kind of matches what they're showing on this.
Well, anyhow, why the heck did I? When I brought it up,
'Cause that looks-
it covered, it
It looks
went
like
right
the-
over the road.
It looks like the front of it, Dick, is still,
No, this is altogether different than what the heck I had dragged up, and I don't know, I have to apologize.
no,
It's not what I, all
I'm
right,
trying to look at
because
the locus and trying to make heads or tails out of what we're looking at.
what I was gonna say, I thought it was gonna be an ancillary frontage for that because of the wetlands went across the street.
Yeah.
And to me also, has this been tested? You know, has somebody gone in there, environmental engineer, and done soil tests to find out where the actual line is for that?
Yeah.
Well, my guess is not. But,
So is that GIS, Dave, that you've got up, is that the general location of where the subject property is?
I believe it was on the corner, or, you know,
it looks like
It's
it.
next to
But
her.
like I say, the outline of what they're showing wetlands is very similar to what's on their map. Can you add a
Yeah, can
copy
you
of
just
that?
verify though, like Tim said, is
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the map that we're looking
Right,
at
it's
now,
right
is
next
that
to,
the whole thing that's in yellow, is that
on Campbell
100
Street?
whatever acres?
Yeah, because see, that
It's
would,
1.04.
to Kevin's point, that frontage that you're showing is on Brintnal, and the frontage for the subject property is on Campbell Street. So that's why I'm a little confused.
Yeah, where exactly are these lots coming off of that big?
yeah, that's the wrong street.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think we're on the wrong street.
Keep going.
I think we need to go down.
You gotta go, and then
on
go down in the lower
right-hand
left.
side to see the property
I'm
on
waiting for
Campbell.
I'm waiting for the map layers to load.
Okay.
So I just need a second there.
There we go. Now you're going down. There's Campbell Street.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are these?
That's on the swamp side, what we're looking at. Now,
Yeah.
now that's on the house side, and that's the open field.
Once again, I'm waiting for these maps to load. Okay, there it is.
There it is. Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I
That's
saw.
what you saw.
So the map, the parcel is this.
That's what I'm looking for. So Dave, if you go up another inch or two, we're gonna get what Kevin was saying, we're gonna be right on top of it.
No, it's right, it is right there at the bend.
Lot 1.02 and 2, right on the edge, and then if you go up maybe another 100 feet, we'll see those. There we go, there's 1.4, that's the one that's listed as Garrell Henderson, and then right next to that 1.4
Oh, yeah, okay, gotta
should be the
slide it.
target lots that we're talking about. Yep, let that load, and I think we'll see everything we need to see.
See, I saw the bend and I thought that was it.
There we go. You're right, Dick. Those, wow. Those don't look like lots that are, gonna be conducive to the town. Does the rest of the board agree?
I would agree.
I would.
Yeah, I really want to take an opportunity, because when I saw the $120,000 and I knew we were getting 129, this was one of our few opportunities to actually buy property and put it in reserve for the future. But now that I see this this wetlands and the contours behind it, I don't think it makes sense for the town. That's my opinion now that I've seen this.
Is this area currently wooded?
Yes, it is. And when you look at the map, when, it looks like younger growth, so I think it was pasture land way back.
So like 80 years ago, Dick, they stopped pasteurizing it, and the trees just grew up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pasteurizing.
pasteurizing is good. I like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry. I was thinking of the pasteurized cows walking around being used for milking.
That would be quite an innovation.
yeah. Just to let you know that the Ag Commission had no problem of
Taking it out.
taking it out.
Yeah, I talked to Randy about this, Dick, and I thought there was an opportunity, but I'm going to call him back and tell him, now that I've seen the GIS, I don't think it's conducive for, because my thought process was this lot 5 and 6 would be good for rec, maybe, it's right off Campbell Street, you could take an acre of it and use it for parking, use the other 2 acres for soccer or a ball field, but with the amount of wetlands on this property,
Yeah.
there's no way that's gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Half the property's wetlands.
True. Unfortunately,
They're looking to take out 3-something acres for two lots,
correct.
correct? Okay, just wanna make sure.
Yeah, Kevin, and I think they're gonna do like they've done in the past, is just wedge the house at the front of the property, and the rest of the back of the property is gonna be all wet and unusable, just like next to me on Palmgussit.
Yeah. Another mosquito heaven.
Yeah.
Mosquito Haven, you're right, Norm. All right, well then I will pull my recommendation for recommending the select board to purchase this, and just back up and say I have no opinion.
Okay, so we notify selectmen that we have no interest.
That is correct. That's what.
Or no issue.
And just, I did it for the ag and I'll do it for here too, even though it's a little bit of distance. But Freddie Warren was my stepmother's cousin, so just to let you know.
Yeah.
I guess.
And that's one reason why I kind of pushed, I wanted to read the deed, because I couldn't believe he never had anything in the deed. No.
We're in the
State
planning
agriculture.
board, so
Oh,
we're in the
he taught
planning.
agriculture.
Oh, I know, I talked with him.
Yeah, that's right.
But, no, that's just one of the things I'm sure he would want it to stay agriculture.
Yeah.
I even remember when he carved out that little thing for,
His niece or something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that. And when he squeezed them into this little piece of property that
Yeah.
he could give him.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody in agreement? Letter to selectmen will be, we have no issues.
Oh, no. Yeah, probably.
But While we're on this subject, I guess I wanted to ask a question of the board. Because we're in the planning board, and we like to plan for future potentials for the town. With this property that's being sold in the center of town, how do we, as a planning board, recommend the select board to take that money and instead of throwing it in the general fund and funding the schools, set that aside for future purchases of land, so it's a one-for-one exchange with that $129,000? Can we recommend that to the select board as a planning board?
To note, they spoke about this last night. It doesn't go to the general fund, it goes to free cash.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if it goes to free cash still, that's a drunken spending spree every November.
Yes.
And I really want to, if we have to come up with a warrant article from the planning board to put that into a fund that can be used for the future purchase of property, I think that's what we should be doing when we sell these properties, instead of funding every wish list in the town. That's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
I agree with you, because it's under 61A. We gave the homeowner an opportunity to save some money, and if anything happens, I believe that kind of money should go into buying the open space, an opportunity to pick up, certain areas.
I was just wondering, before we go off point, if we could just get a motion on this item regarding the 61. Just leave a motion for the record, and I'll draft that correspondence tomorrow.
Okay, do I have a motion to notify select board that we have no issues?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, Tim,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Norm, aye.
Great, thank you.
I just think, and the reason I say this is, the Davis property came up, we had no money, we tried our best to do it, but there was no funding mechanism to do it. With some of these sales that are happening in town, I don't know how to do this. I'm not the financial whiz with the town, but I think there should be some type of funds that are already set up. This money can, sure, it goes into free cash, but then a warrant article to bring it into a fund that can be used for future purchases. To Dick's point, open space, properties that might need to be used to move the DPW in future or expand it, or to put a town hall somewhere. I mean, we got a plan for this. We just seem to be floundering. And the fact that this house next to Dunkin' Donuts is in the sale process, this is an opportune time to take advantage of that $129,000 and tuck it away for future, instead of throwing it the free cash for the free-for-all spending spree, as we all know happens.
And I'll just let you know that agricultural preservation was voted on by the town, and they also voted $500, and there was a donation made, so I believe there is $6,500 in that account for purchasing such land right
I
now.
think there's a perfect place to pigeonhole some of this money.
Yes. And that's one of the
What
reasons
about,
why we,
while we're on that topic of conversation, the property that recently came up for sale, I noticed is across from the cemetery on Main Street. The big one there, at the
No,
bottom of the
it-
hill, Donna Fugere owns the
no,
property.
it is not the big one, Kevin. It's a very narrow strip of 18.1 acres, and it belongs to Clario, not Blair and trustees of reservation. That's why.
It's Donna Fugere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donna Bobo's sister owns
Correct.
it. Donna Fugere owns it. So yeah, it's 18 acres. I meant across from the big cemetery, not the big piece of property.
Yeah.
But it's that 18-acre piece right across from the large cemetery there on Main Street.
Is
I don't know.
it a small swale, Kevin, or is it can something be built on it?
Yes, but it comes off of Inwood Road.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's no frontage on Main Street?
Negative.
I think there is some frontage on Main Street
Well,
now.
there is frontage, but that's not the piece that they have up for sale. The sign is only there to, show them the area.
Well, that's all, is that connected to that piece of property that the Israel Estates, all those lots that were back in there? Again, you look at, we owned that property and then.
The easement that goes through the Blair and Trustee is an easement, the sewer line, and that does go all the way down to Sunny Hill, or Sunset, or whatever they call it.
I'm just wondering if we should look at those lots again and just kind of see, if there's an opportunity. I'm just throwing it out there as, center of town, 18 acres in the center of town. I don't know. If something to look at or not.
Kevin, I agree with you. It's just, if we don't buy now, we're not gonna be able to buy in the future.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Well, the business meeting, let's bring it up.
Okay.
Moving on.
Is that something that could be included in the, Community Preservation Act?
Yes.
So if the town if the town accepts the relevant statute and passes a local bylaw opting into the CPA, Community Preservation Act, opting into that, then the town would receive, let's see if I recall this correctly, proceeds from real estate transfers. The town would receive proceeds from real estate transfers, which could be used for limited purposes such as land preservation for lands that come up on Chapter 61, historic preservation, and
Low-income housing?
low-income housing. Yes, those are the main uses. So that would be that would be a way to create some number of dollars that could be used for those purposes. But currently, the town has not accepted the statute that authorizes it to become part of that program.
Is that something that's our purview, or is that the select board?
Ultimately, it's a town meeting vote, so it would be a warrant article opting into the program and doing all the relevant things necessary to become a CPA community. That would be done by
How long has that,
article
David,
petition with the select
how long
board.
has that been out there? Years, months?
Long time. I was in Concom when they first came around. And when
Oh
the,
my God.
and the town,
We've been avoiding this for decades.
Yes.
Outstanding,
yeah.
outstanding.
And we should push the select board to get it on to the spring meeting, town meeting.
Yeah, I agree, Dick. All right.
Okay.
Okay, we set on that one?
Voted. Okay.
Okay, Maple Hill Estates, I don't believe we have anything on Maple Hill other than, do we need to formally accept, apparently, that Joe Buckley has agreed that the puddling
Right, as
is,
I think the board has already done that at the last meeting.
did,
The
okay.
board decided to just take a formal vote acknowledging that the DPW director saw no problem with it.
we did?
Yeah.
Yes,
We did?
I think I requested that just so that we can transmit that to Carl Holtgren, so that he can put it into the comments
Okay,
and just check that off as something that's now been resolved.
okay.
However, I do have a quick update on Maple Hill,
Okay.
unless you have something else.
No, no.
Oh, thank you. So, this is a follow-up item, whether or not the consulting engineer, Quinn Engineering, has the as-bills, and whether or not they've started review of the as-bills. Quinn does have the as-bills, they've started review of the as-bills. They are also started a memo for the final recommendation to the board in terms of things that are outstanding for that subdivision. So that one is moving along. I think once we get closer to spring, then it's the normal operation of the final site visit with DPW, the planning board, and the applicant, and the engineering firm,
Yeah.
Quinn, as well as the pick list and the final things to resolve in time for town meeting. So there's this will be on town meeting in the spring.
Through the chair. And I believe Concom had got the okay, have they got the okay about the conservation restriction on that?
No.
They have not. So therefore, this thing cannot go through until that is, in my opinion, until that has been okayed by Concom and the bounds have been put in. Because that's, I think that's what they wanted is, you know, to outline the boundary between the different owners.
I don't recall any report that said that the bounds had been set.
I don't think, you know, it'll have to be up to Concom whether or not they had to accept it.
Yeah, if I may, the commission had sent recommendations to Attorney Carizzi, asking him to include them on the final draft. And it came back to the commission and those changes were not included. So we've since sent it back to them, asking them to include that information, and we have not heard back. Is that fair, Peter?
That's exactly correct. We are waiting for we're waiting to hear back from the attorney
Yeah.
or applicant or whatever, whoever's gonna respond to us.
And to me, that is part of the subdivision. It was drawn out as such, and therefore, I think we cannot move forward until that is taken care of.
Yeah, we're requiring the conservation restriction.
Mhm.
It's not Concom that's requiring it, they just approve it.
That's correct.
So, yeah.
And to be fair, there's a lot more process involved.
Mhm.
Because with the changes that we've made, we suggested that the applicant send it back to the state because they need to review it and approve it.
Mhm.
And then Concom approves it, and then signs it, and then the select board approves and signs it. And then they send it to the registry, and it takes care of itself after that, but.
Sounds like they need to get on the
So-
stick.
Norm, does that procedure, and again, I'm shooting from the hip, doesn't sound like it's gonna make it on spring meeting for the roads.
You know, I have no idea, for example, you know, what does the state have for a time limit for reviewing and accepting?
It's my understanding that they have not taken a long time to do
Okay.
reviews recently.
Yeah,
But I don't know, I don't honestly know what that means.
yeah, okay. So, it's on them to do it.
It's on them to do it, and it's on us to hold until
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
receive it complete.
Yeah, until we get everything, but,
Yeah.
They know they have to do it.
right.
And, you know, hey, I'm tired of chasing. I don't have any desire to go chasing a lot of it.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We Concom have chased about to the limit of our patience.
Yeah. Yeah. And where did it get you?
Exactly, me sitting in this chair.
Yeah. So,
So, as a board, are we gonna stick to it that if 2 weeks before the town meeting, the applicant comes with us with all the paperwork done and wanting to get the roads blessed by us, are we gonna step up to that? Or are we gonna say, we wanted this 6 weeks ago, I guess? I'm playing devil's advocate right now.
It's all part of the open space design,
yeah,
so
Right.
therefore we can't until it's okayed.
yeah.
And you can remind them that this is due in such and such a date, but I don't think it's up to us to push them to do it.
And you know, as far as a particular due date, it's based on when we have to have our recommendation to the select board, you know, on acceptance.
Okay.
You know, I would tend to think that, you know, a letter from the state saying, yes, the conservation restriction is okay, it does not have to be very, very early. Whereas, you know, any of the on-the-ground stuff that needs to be done, does.
And by the way, just to add to this a little bit, Concom is not only asking for the conservation restriction, we require that the deeds for all the little mini strips of land between the parcels have rights of way.
Mhm.
Because Concom cannot get access to each of the open space parcels under our stewardship, if you will,
Mhm.
without those rights of way in place.
Yeah,
And an Oakley knows about it, but I don't know what's been done, and hopefully it's in the deed before they transfer the property.
yeah.
But again, if it's not there, then there's no way for us to get access to the property.
Right.
That's,
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
I understand the piece about the conservation restriction. My update was really more subdivision focused with the technical aspects of the roadway acceptance.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, that the applicant, the consulting engineer will still be advised to proceed on the normal course of action and not to wait until the conservation restriction is resolved before
Mhm.
continuous engineering review.
No.
You can-
We're not asking-
Sure.
No.
All right, thank you. I just like to be clear on that.
Concom completely agrees with that. There's no,
Okay.
the restriction is a separate process from all the engineering work that has to happen for the
Yeah.
roads
Right.
and the other infrastructural pieces. There's no reason to block one piece for the other.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else on Maple Hill? Bryce Lemon, I don't see anything regarding Bryce Lemon.
What did you just hand out?
Mr. Chair,
Oh.
yes, that's
Yes.
what I was just going to get
Yes,
to.
yes.
This is a follow-up item for the board's request. You have the email, I don't know if you want to read that
Yeah.
for the record, or otherwise
Well-
discuss it, or whatever.
I guess this is, you know, in response to, when are they gonna start working on phase 4? It says we're planning on starting phase 1C, which is just Lemon Circle, as soon as we can, late February or March maybe. Get that going. In the process of putting together the budget for phase 4 right now, so we can line up financing for the phase. Basically, he's saying probably not until later in the summer. And by sometime next year, they'll actually be building houses.
So, am I reading that right, that Norm, that the connection wouldn't be started until, or start to work on until 2023?
No, he said expect to start working phase 4 later in the summer.
Okay, they just wouldn't have it built out until 2023?
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I had something else just to add to this,
Mhm.
very briefly, also in follow-up. This has to do with the street acceptance and where that stands.
Mhm.
So the consulting engineer has received the as-built plans, they are reviewing the as-built plans. They're developing a memo that's going to itemize things that are outstanding. And then this will also occur per the normal practice of the inspection with DPW, et cetera. And they're working through the pick list. So this will also be, I believe, proposed for the spring town meeting as well.
Yeah, phase 2 you mean?
Phase 2 street acceptance, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you. So there'll be a hearing for this one, you know, as we get closer. So this is on the radar as well. I think that was the question, is this on the radar? Are the relevant parties addressing this and working through the procedure? So the answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else
Good.
on Bryce Lemon? Onward to, I believe, Brintnal Estates. We do have a report from Quinn on Brintnal Estates, and we have some other stuff as well. I don't see anything that sounds problematic in his report. And we do have engineering report from MVA Engineering, Michael Maroney, about numerous inspections that he has done. November 30th, December 15th, January 12th, January 19th. And basically, since January 19th, I don't think much of anything has been done down there. The only thing is, I'll say, I have not really gone down there to take a look because I'm traveling Brintnal Drive right now as little as possible. It is a mess.
A few ruts here and there.
Ruts and potholes.
And
It's a combination. Right in front of my house, yeah, there's ruts this deep. And the Mildred went out.
Dave, how do we get, and I'm not sure how to do this because they've got open rebar sitting in the weather throughout the winter. And my experience with rebar is dusty rust isn't an issue. Flaky rust is a problem when you pour concrete. So how do we do a reminder before they pour the concrete in the spring that somebody does an inspection on the rebar to make sure we don't get a product that's going to be a mess for us down the road? Is that like an email to Carl? Is there as a calendar reminder to check the rebar before, or talk to Tom Larson before they pour to check the rebar? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I would tend to think that would actually be up to the structural engineer to note that.
Yeah, well, I have no faith in my experience with the engineering staff, with our builders in town, so there's too many roads with holes in them. There's too many things that happen 5 and 6 years down the road. I have no faith. So, putting rebar in and getting it all put together and then leaving it sit for 4 or 5 months really didn't make a lot of sense to me. That's my opinion, but I would think you'd do it before you pour concrete instead of letting it sit and rust over the winter. It's my opinion.
It hasn't been in there that long.
And it was, this showed it covered, but the wind has blown it off.
Yeah.
Right, so why go through all the effort of covering this if you don't know? You know what I mean? If it was never going to be an issue, they wouldn't have covered it.
Yeah.
If it potentially is an issue, that's why they must cover it, to make sure it doesn't, then it doesn't. So I think by covering it, you're admitting that it shouldn't have been wet for X amount of months. And to Jim's point, yeah, it's structural engineers. I don't know, to pass the buck on something like that, I think a notification wouldn't hurt. We could do that.
The only other thing I'd say is, if you know anything about chemical reactions in cold temperatures, they're very slow.
Yeah, and Norm, again,
You would get more rust in the middle of the summer.
Being in the power industry, if there's just like, dusty rust on rebar, that doesn't really affect concrete. What causes the concrete issues is when you get the rebar with the flaky rust on it, and that gets into the concrete. That causes curing problems and issues. That's the only thing I wanted to make sure of before they poured the concrete, that a lot of times, what we used to do in the power industry, if we saw the rebar was flaking off, we'd send a guy out there with a wire grinder and let him spend the whole day getting all that stuff off before we poured the concrete, because we didn't want to have to chip out concrete and start from scratch. So that's all I'm getting to, is I don't want to leave the town with a mess of cracked concrete and stuff that's an issue just because we tried, I shouldn't say we, that stuff didn't get done correctly. And again, my experience is that happens more not than it does not happen. So that's why I was just going to ask, do we put a note on Carl or somebody just to go out there and just do a visual? Hey, it's dusty, pour the damn concrete, who cares? Well, it's flaking off. Isn't that a problem? And ask the question to Mr. Maroney, and then let him officially tell us that no, it's not, and then we got it on record. So that's all I was asking for.
Should there be communications between the two?
I
think Kyle should go talk to the guy or something like that and just say, hey, the board has a little nervous about rust.
I suppose I can. I'm just from experience, that even I've had with steel, with rebar and that sort of thing, there's not gonna be flaky rust. The thing is, they're gonna pour that concrete as soon as they get warm enough weather, which could very well be another month. So that's gonna mean that
Just
that's,
saw him pour a foundation a couple of days ago.
yeah, well, I think this is a little different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My own personal
Well-
feeling is it's not an issue, but, hey, we
All
can
right,
do,
I'm fine with that,
yeah, we can do whatever the board wants.
this is another quote bridge culvert in town that we have no experience with. We've only got one right now over Bear Hill 2, and this will be number 2. So,
Over where?
Bear Hill.
okay. What's that?
The bridge is over Bear Hill.
Well, we've got a bridge at Bear Hill, and we acquiesced to this culvert design for Brintnal Estates.
Yeah.
And we have the
So I
culverts on
don't-
Brice Lemon.
I don't think we have, I know we've got culverts at Brice Lemon, don't get me wrong, but we don't have one this size anywhere in town, if I'm not mistaken.
True.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Just
So
have
I
to
just,
give Carl a call and
again,
just say, hey.
and
here it
maybe
is.
Director
Just
Buckley's all over this,
leave it-
and I'm
leave
just
it like
being
that.
sensitive. And that's fine if I am, I'm fine, because I trust Director Buckley is his overview, but it's one of those things I don't want to hear about this 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, but he's too busy for crying out loud.
I will call Carl myself
All right,
on that.
All right, move on, that's enough out of it.
okay.
Okay, anything else on Brintnal?
Yeah, I had a couple of other things. These are
Yep.
more follow-up items.
Okay.
So, as the board knows, there was correspondence sent out on a number of things that the board was looking for on this particular subdivision. We're still waiting for responses on the other items, such as the SOAR plan that has the changes that the board needs to review and sign off on, as well as a schedule of culvert construction and the detailed culvert plans. So that request has been made, and we're waiting for that information on behalf of the board.
David, did you say sewer plan changes?
Remember how it was only a couple of feet below the ground?
Yeah.
Oh, that stuff, okay, yeah, we talked about that already last week.
Yeah.
Okay. And culverts, that was just on the distances that I remember us talking about, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And we considered those field changes, we didn't consider those.
Yes.
Okay. What about, well, when you skip through that letter, Dave, go back up, all of those housekeeping items. There's a lot of bullets there. I guess the first bullet I think we got taken care of. Do we have any final plans of that culvert? Somebody on the board can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing the final plans that were gonna be part of the package for the Brintnal Estates. Am I wrong? Do we have that and I just don't know it, or
I don't think
missed
they've
it?
come in yet, because I think Carl,
Didn't you,
Provide an update on that.
you just mentioned that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, David mentioned it, it's been requested, we have not received them yet.
All right, so that's on the housekeeping, which, you know, yeah, okay. And then item 3, we still don't have a letter for that one, correct? Or bullet 3, I should say.
I don't believe we have, I haven't seen
Did we get that?
I guess what I'm getting at is we've got all these housekeeping items that come up every meeting after meeting. And me personally, I'm getting tired of them. I want these things solved. And I guess I don't know how to say the board, I'm just tired of, this is the typical rhetoric we've got out of subdivision after subdivision, dragging on to the end. And then all of a sudden they mysteriously appear. I'm tired of that. Give me the freaking documentation during construction or at the beginning of construction. I mean, there isn't one job I've ever worked on that I've started without engineered drawings. Not one in my career. And here we are, we're building a culvert and head walls without design plans? You're freaking kidding me, right? I'm frustrated is what I'm getting at. If I'm by myself, I am, but I'm tired of it. We went through the same thing with Bear Hill. We never got an official bridge drawing until after the fact, and I'm not buying into it anymore.
So what's your, what do you think we should do about this?
Me personally, I'd say shut them down until we get the damn drawings, but that's a little harsh. I would rather be more work with the applicant and say, come on, you got the thing half built and we still don't have engineered drawings. Where are they?
Give them a 90 days.
We got
3
some
months.
kind of a correspondence on that Mass Dot.
Yes, for the other culvert. There's two crossings, so one
Yeah.
crossing has that certification and this one does not.
Interesting.
I remember us talking with Brintnal Estates that we were gonna have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. And with this list, we don't yet. So, the good faith thing for me is sort of run out. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I'm tired of the good faith.
Well,
I want documents, I want things done.
I'd give them 90 days due to the weather and all that.
I'm okay with that, Dick. I think that's generous beyond belief. And if the rest of the board's okay with that, I'm okay with that. But at 90 days, I think the recommendation is to the director and to the building inspector, party's over.
I don't know if we have,
documentations
do
that
we
that
have
shows us how this
jurisdiction
is
to do
being
something like
built.
that?
Shut it down until we get them.
I don't think we have.
That's correct, yes. The building commission is not involved at this point.
Right.
He has no jurisdiction on this project at this point in time.
We have no jurisdiction on that. To shut them down.
We can't shut down a job site, so the building inspector has to have jurisdiction, because he's the only one that has the authority in town to do that, correct? Or is it the DPW chief that does that? I don't know which, but somebody's gotta have jurisdiction, because we do not, as a board, unless I'm mistaken, we can't shut down any job site or any construction in the town of Rutland. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one.
Well, you got a good point there. I think that we should have jurisdiction some places. If they're not following, how do we shut them down?
Near as I know, the only jurisdiction we have is to rescind the subdivision plan.
Is that what KP law would say?
On that, I don't-
Well, I think more fundamentally, if I could just on this, more fundamentally, the board has subdivision rules and regulations. If there's a way to address the situation, it would have to be in the board subdivision rules and regulations. So having dealt with those on a long period of time over several subdivisions, maybe you could tell us where that is, if it exists.
That's just it. I don't think it exists.
So therefore,
But there again, is there any,
You know, the thing is, and my guess would be that in our subdivision regulations, we probably don't even have any specified time or order in which some of these things have to be done.
that is true as well.
You know, in other words, we don't say that, prior to construction, we must have this. I'll make it better, it's not in there.
Right, so,
Yeah, but Norm, we do say that to start a subdivision, you have to have an approved set of plans. If we don't have all the plans in a set, then as far as I'm concerned, it ain't approved. And yes, we may be given some latitude to developers, and I'm okay with that. I mean, we're not here to be hard and fast. We can work with the developers, but this is getting ridiculous that, you know, they've got half of a culvert built and there's no definitive plans on how it's being built. I'm struggling with that.
I don't know that there aren't any plans for it. I know that the board doesn't have those plans. And that there's.
Well, I can tell you right now, Dave, a PE cannot approve a drawing that hasn't been officially designed. And if he stamps a drawing that isn't designed and correctly laid out, I've never seen that in my career. You just don't say, we're gonna go with this. You just don't do that when you build anything. I don't care if it's a house, if it's a wall, if it's a bridge, if it's a boiler house, if it's a commercial building. All that stuff has to be laid out and stamped and approved before it started. And here we are building a culvert with concrete and blocks, and we don't even have a stamped engineered drawing of how it's being built. That's absurd beyond belief.
Point taken.
So with that being said, and I'm kind of taking all this in, right? Just kind of listening through this. You guys have been through this year after year after year. This is repetitive type behavior. You know, putting 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is, and if the drawings aren't in, then, you know, yeah, you've got some pretty substantial building going on over there. You've got some large construction projects that are going to have, you know, people and cars or whatever over for years and years, and we don't have a plan. If we verify that there's no plan, I don't know that we should allow them to move forward with pouring that concrete or building any more of these structures without plans. And if it's not our purview to stop them, somebody's got to, because that, what Tim's saying, it doesn't make any sense. You can't build anything without a plan. And if it's not the building inspector, and if it's not the DPW chief, then I would think it would have to be us.
Do we have any definitive answer of exactly what it is we should have, or does it go to other departments? For example, the DPW on bridges and things, on culverts.
As far as, other review, no. We have nothing in
So just to clarify that, make sure I understand that there's no requirement that we have to have these plans in our office?
It I guess somewhat kind of depends on how you're looking at it. The plans for that culvert are part and parcel of the subdivision plans.
Correct.
Okay. And as far as I'm concerned anyway, a construction drawing plan of that culvert would be considered a detail.
On the initial plan.
Right. And, for example, in the subdivision plans that, the great big ones that we get, there's always a page of details.
Mm-hmm.
The drop inlets, whatever you want to call them, cross-section of the road, everything, there are details there. And probably, yes, that's where it should be. We approved it without them.
Because we were told, Norm, that we would get them. I remember that conversation, and it's been dragging on for months, if not a year, of getting them. We still don't have them. So that's my frustration. That's why when I look at these bullets, I'm like, I'm just tired of the promises and nothing being finalized. Yeah, we've got the reports. I appreciate Mike doing that. But how can he report on something that doesn't have a design? I'm struggling with that too, because no professional engineer would go out to a job site without a set of drawings in their hand to review.
My question,
And-
Tim, my question is, if you have a drawing, I don't remember seeing these plans on any subdivision that we had worked on when I've been here, which is 12 years, I think. It seems to me that you're talking more about the detail than we're required to have. We're required to have a drawing on the initial plan, Norm's saying. Am I quoting you correctly?
Well,
It's number 3, right there, it lays it right out.
But I'm saying, where does the requirement for that come from?
the certification, blah, 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 blah.
1, 2, 3. That just says a certification that it meets requirements. It doesn't
Well,
say that
we're
you have
talking
to
about-
have a detailed
We're
plan
talking about the
before
one
you start
above it, the
building.
one above, the one directly above it.
Going back to where?
The bullet just above what you're talking
Okay.
about. I would have to go and take a look at our subdivision regulations. I don't know if it is specifically stated in there or not.
Yeah, and besides, yes, that we can look at that. I think we should take a look at that.
Mm.
Also, meanwhile, the board decided follow-up on this. A letter was sent out on the 25th of January relative to these items.
Mhm.
After the board had discussion of this, within a month or so before that,
Mhm.
with this subdivision really starting in, October or November.
Mhm.
So, once again, the request is out there, and it's on here, which is a good thing, that it's on here as housekeeping.
And you followed up.
I followed up today.
on
So you
following
got
up today.
the structural engineering report
Mhm.
today, and then my response to that was, thank you for this,
Mhm.
what about the rest of it? So
I
here's the
remember.
rest of it.
Okay, I remember.
The rest of it is, look
Yes.
at the letter from the 25th. The letter
Mhm.
from the 25th itemizes what else the board was looking for.
Mhm.
So where's the rest of it? So that follow-up has been done. So I think, I'm gonna recommend that you maybe wanna have the applicant in here at some point, so you can hear directly from the board what the board's,
Mhm.
consternation is with making the request and not getting the stuff on a timely basis. But certainly today, when you got this,
Mhm.
there's also further follow-up regarding where's the rest of it.
Hmm.
I guess, you can sit Mr. Blair over here and say, where's the rest of it, where's the rest of it, where's the rest of it, just until you can
But-
get,
I'm sorry. Are you finished? I didn't mean to speak.
I think so.
But it seems to me that there's two issues that we're talking here. We're talking about the stuff that they need to turn in and the inspections. It says inspection on here, and our structural engineers inspection reports. And we're asking for design plans, but we're not asking them, Tim, are you asking for things, you were talking about not starting a project until you had detailed plans. It seems to me like we're discussing two different things.
Well, it's already started, Marilyn, and again, we were generous to the applicant that their structural engineer was gonna have something that he was gonna build to and provide to us
I know that.
after we allowed them to start. Now, I see reports coming in, I read them, and Dave, thanks for getting those to us. But I've got reports from a structural engineer with a professional engineering stamp saying that he reviewed the progress. I don't know how you review progress of something if you don't have a drawing in your hand to be able to look at dimensions, to look at how it's being put together, to how it's being laid out. I just don't go out to a job site and look at a boiler and go, hey, that looks good. Okay, let's go, guys.
It would
Can't
seem,
do that.
it seems to me that what we're asking for, though, is not asking for those detailed plans to necessarily be in this office. I mean, they should be in Carl's hands or any other engineer that's supervising that job.
No, they should be part of the plans that we got, like Norm said, part of a detail in the back of a drawing. Because we've gotten this before. Think of Brice Lemon. When they did the culverts over there, we had detailed layouts of those culverts, of how they were being put in. So I don't consider that anything different than what was done in Brice Lemon with the culverts. billboards, except it's larger and it has to be PE stamped. So why can't, if you did it in Brice Lemon, why can't you do the same thing here in Brintnal Estates? And that's my struggle is, we're building something without any engineered drawings, without any PE stamp drawings, and we've got a structural engineer going out and saying everything's okay, but we and Carl can't prove that because we have nothing to look at or even ask questions about. That's my struggle.
We don't know if it meets Mass DOT specifications.
That's a great point, Dick. There's a huge big point right there. And we can't even use our own engineer, being that has a PE, Director Buckley, who could actually assist us in saying, hey, it is good, because we do have a professional engineer within the town of Rutland that we could use if we have to ask questions. We don't even have that ability. So there's my struggle with this, is that I really don't want to get to the end of it, and then like we did in Brice Lemon with the culvert at the entrance, and say, oh yeah, it's good now. But we didn't, there was no reports on how it was built, there was no drawings, because it was changed. It just, things like that just irk me, because it's after the fact, and we have no control over it, and we're at the mercy of what was put in, and we hope it's good in 5 or 10 years. And I don't want to be in that boat. I want to have my I's dotted and T's crossed. And I don't think we have that right now. And that's why I'm really frustrated, because this isn't the first time this has happened.
No, I agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing with you that we, should have better plans, but I don't think that we've asked for them in the past before the construction was started, and that's what I'm hearing that you would like, and I don't think that's a part of this discussion for right now.
It should have been asked for right at the submission of the plan.
Right.
But, I don't know, the other thing I'm gonna say is Dave has sent a reminder
Yeah.
just
No,
today.
I'm fine with where we're at. I
So-
just want to get a response. And then to Dick's point, if we're not going to get anything and we're going to keep getting drugged through the mud, I think the board needs to take action. And again, I don't know if that's us, if it's a building inspector, if it's the DPW chief, somebody, action has to be taken to say, listen, until these drawings or details or whatever are given to us, you're done. You're not pouring concrete, you're not doing anything. That's my opinion. Again, but I'll go with whatever the rest of the board wants, but I'm weary, because
If we don't get anything within 90 days, we'll get a hold of the district attorney and go from there.
Well, I wonder, I'm just gonna throw out something as maybe before in previous years we didn't have, but today we have Dave. We've got Dave George here. Could Dave ask for a meeting with Mr. Blair, or I forget his right-hand man, and sit down and just, from Dave to them, say, look, we've had a lot of these meetings in the planning board. The planning board's getting a little bit upset. It will be my recommendation, is that feasible? It's not coming from the director. It's just coming from Dave and a cat. You guys need to get these things done. We don't want to have to put dates out there, blah, 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 blah. Is that something that's feasible or not?
I think that's a great suggestion, Kevin. I think it is.
I don't particularly like the idea of putting that, squarely on Dave's shoulders. I would rather have Blair sitting here in the room with us to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, maybe then we invite him into the next meeting.
And I would ask Mr. Maroney to be here too, since it's ultimately his stamp that goes on those drawings.
Because you're right, this comes up, if it's not every meeting, it's 2 out of 3. These things need to get done, and I've been on here a short time, so I can understand some of the board members' frustrations where you're asking and asking and asking and asking, and it's still continuing to not have to be happening, so.
Actually, I would venture a guess that Mr. Blair will probably be at our next meeting
I'm just
anyway,
thinking that too.
because of the
Okay.
marijuana thing.
All right.
Oh, and before I forget it,
I don't have a problem waiting the next meeting, as long as, I would actually, and again, this is my opinion, asked Mr. Blair, Mr. Maroney, and I'd ask, since ultimately Director Buckley's gonna be taking this over when this gets turned over to him, ask him to sit in on the meeting too. Don't need opinion from him, but if he's available, sit in the meeting, because ultimately this is gonna be his culvert when this gets turned over, and wanna make sure he's happy with what he's getting.
Now, I'd like to make it clear to Tim and Kevin that I am frustrated about the way this process works every year. I just wanted to clarify in my own mind, particularly about exactly, I think there's two problems here, but it is frustrating.
We should look at the subdivision plans. I mean,
I think, Marilyn, what
that's
happened
coming
is,
up. That's coming
we
up.
were too, I don't want to use the word generous, but we were too passive at the beginning, presuming that we were going to get all the documentation. And
No, I agree with that.
Even to a secondary point about Dick still waiting on how that trail is going to connect. That hasn't happened either.
No,
So
I agree with that.
I think the board's been more than generous in trying to work with this applicant, and I'm just at the end of my rope.
Well, we've
That's what I
got,
guess.
we have he's gonna be in here next week anyway, and so we would, to have a plan that,
Yep.
Dave is addressing it, and then we'll address it with him.
Yeah, I think enough said. I think I beat this horse to death, so I'll shut up.
I think I'll agree with that.
Before I forget it, our next meeting Tuesday, I believe there's a conflict with Selectboard. Did Peter
yes.
talk to you about that at all?
25th,
22nd.
22nd rather?
Because
Oh, it's
What's the
because Monday's a
conflict?
holiday?
Monday's a holiday, so they're meeting on Tuesday.
Oh,
President's Day.
Yeah.
Holidays, President's Day, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So you want to move this meeting to the 23rd?
Norm, is it legitimate if we
You've already
move
scheduled a
Wednesday
public hearing, right?
with that?
You've already posted a
that-
public hearing,
We have already posted a public hearing. So what's the conflict? We'll have to have the meeting someplace else,
someplace else.
in a different room.
Mhm.
I already posted it, it was, yes. There was no notice,
So-
there was no notice made well in advance that there would be a conflict such that it should be considered for the purposes of scheduling a hearing.
Mhm.
So therefore, that information wasn't. So
Mhm.
yes, that meeting does have to happen. It has to be in a different location, whatever that is.
Well, the select board does not own this room.
exactly, yeah.
There was
They-
no
they can
prior,
move.
there was no
They can-
prior notice of this possibility,
Yeah.
so I wrote the
Mhm.
legal ad as per normal practice.
Thing is, they can't meet Monday. I don't know why they couldn't just move to Wednesday instead of,
Right.
conflicting with us.
Or maybe it's an option to ask them that, because it's still 2 weeks out.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's a possibility.
You want to inquire about it?
I'm sorry, what's a possibility?
Of having the select board move their meeting to a different day.
On Wednesday instead of Tuesday.
Is that something you think would be appropriate coming from the chair to the TA to the select board chair on this, or how would you like to pursue this, Mr. Chairman?
I would,
From me, through you,
No, I'm,
to the TA.
all right.
Like I say, I just think it's ridiculous that
yeah.
because of the holiday, now they disrupt everything else.
Right.
Norm, shouldn't they move their meeting instead of us moving ours?
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
what they've been
That's what I'm
talking
saying.
about.
I don't want us to move to Wednesday or something like that. I have another meeting, so.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we can't move on Tuesday because we need the Zoom.
Actually, as Norm correctly indicated, moving, this meeting date is not an option. The only option is what room does the meeting happen in, because there's already been a legal notice published,
Right.
so the board is bound by that date.
And it has to be Zoomed, right?
As a remote option,
Oh.
yes,
Yeah.
not exclusively.
So the.
Through the chair,
Whatever
Norm,
the.
could we ask Lyndon and the TA if they could have their meeting in the library conference room?
Upstairs?
No.
No, that's
No,
not
in the
good.
big conference
Oh, the
room.
big one.
I mean, they've had their meetings there before, so
I
Could we
think
ask
the
them
issue
because of
is,
the posting that we have, that they
Yes.
could move their meeting over to that large conference room?
the issue might be the Zoom connections.
And,
Yeah.
and the librarian has, she's
Control.
manager of that room, so
So,
you're gonna talk to
this is something for the TA to figure out.
Carrie
Okay,
about
all
that.
right. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
Next.
done with Brintnal Estates for the moment. Bear Hill 2, I believe we have nothing on Bear Hill 2.
That's correct.
Hey, Dave, you did a phenomenal job at Norm on this report. It looks like we busted a hump this year. In the middle of a pandemic.
Okay, annual reports, I will take absolutely no credit whatsoever for this report.
Okay.
Dave did it 100% on his
Yeah.
own, and it's, I don't know, some words come to my mind, complete, thorough, masterpiece.
okay, so on the first page, you're doing the Rutland Planning Board.
Planning board.
Related committee and commission memberships. I don't see HPDD in solar for me.
This is why it's a draft. So I
And
can, what do you need to have inserted here?
Dick's on with me on the Dick, you're on the HPDD and I'm on the RDIC, correct?
I'm on both RDIC and
Okay.
HPDD
All right, I can add that, it's
Okay.
solar.
and solar. And also Kevin is on the open space and rec. I noticed that wasn't on his.
That's
Yeah, I was
easy.
gonna bring that up, that's the other one.
Okay,
No, that's easy enough to add, thank you for that.
and where's Tim?
I'm at the top. Go back up.
Oh,
I
yeah.
should just be RDIC in the Development Industrial Steering Committee. So the only thing that you need to add for me is I'm on the RDIC.
Well, it's there. Rutland Development Industrial Commission for Tim.
Oh, and Master Steering. I'm sorry, I missed the Master. Okay. Yep, I'm good. That's all. Those are the only two that I'm on right now.
And that's all I had for that.
I just have a grammar issue on the second paragraph down, 3/4 of the way through the paragraph, you said "and," comma. I was wondering if you would consider dropping the "and" and saying, "In addition, the office continued to work."
Where am I, Marilyn?
It's the next,
So-
no, this is the development
it's the
and
first
community.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Oh,
Wrong page, I stapled them all together.
So you're on,
And where were you on that particular page?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
Second paragraph.
second paragraph, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences up from the end of the paragraph. At the beginning of the fourth sentence, there's providing more service and to the public by electronical means, comma, and,
Oh, period.
oh,
period, and.
sorry, once again, I'm not quite sure I'm there yet. Can you
Okay.
just orient me towards the headings and then go from there?
It's on the draft.
Is it the planning
I
board
mean, sorry,
one?
that,
No,
no,
it's
they
the other
moved
one.
over to the other one.
Oh, so there's nothing else on the planning
No,
board?
that's-
No,
So the community development draft, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So now, under roll,
Yep,
It's,
keep going down.
down more.
it
Next,
starts during
The
the
next-
year
the
the
next
town was
paragraph.
right here, got it,
affected.
okay,
There.
thank you.
Yeah,
And,
fourth line up from the bottom of that second paragraph.
And comma, the office continued to work with the town and the cable commission to coordinate remote option meetings with the planning board. So you're saying what, strike the comma, or just say in addition
and,
to?
yeah, and strike
Wow.
the "and." Could you have a period there, just, I'm a grammar nut.
Yeah, So,
Oh, no, Marilyn,
Electronic
you're right, it should
means
be the
period,
office.
and then
No.
Get rid of
in
the- Yep.
addition, the office continued to work.
Sure.
doesn't even have to say in addition, it can
Well, that's true,
get rid of the and,
Just get rid of the
comma,
end and say the
Yeah.
office.
capitalize the.
very good.
That's good too, okay.
Yep. And that was
Yeah, I thought they were
good.
very well done.
Okay, do we need to accept or approve these?
I guess it's really for the board's information, if you saw any omissions or what have you, or if you want to take a vote, that's fine too, I'm not sure it requires one. It's more just to let the board and the public know the work that the planning board's done for the last fiscal year, and also the planning office as well, so that's out there.
Just to make it formal, I'll accept a motion to, in.
Norm, I move to accept this report, and publish it as part of our, requirement for the town meeting in May.
Okay, I'll buy that for language.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, in favor, Kevin,
Aye.
Tim. Tim,
Tim?
Tim?
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have had a spectrum screw up. Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Norm, aye.
You scared us there, Tim.
Yeah.
Sorry, spectrum, I wish we had an opportunity in this town to have another choice, but we don't. Hey,
Okay.
before we move on, can I make a motion that we tell the TA that we recommend David for a 8% raise?
Only?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's in bed, so she didn't hear that, so she's not down here throwing stuff at me right now.
Oh, good, yeah.
No, I'm somewhat serious about this. Do we get the opportunity, Norm, to participate in any of Dave's goals or reviews or anything like that? Because I think either you or somebody should be giving the TA all of the, like this report, all the positives that Dave's done for the planning board. I really think that's something that should be gotten into his review. And I don't know when they do the reviews, if it's already happened or if it's happening, but I think since he's an integral part of the planning board, that we should do that, because who else is going to know other than if they watch the planning board meetings or participate in them? So, and I know the TA hasn't been on a lot of our planning board meetings, so I think it's only fair, because
Who?
it's my opinion.
Is there anybody else on Zoom?
The planning board members and
Two planning board,
RCTV,
and that's it? Nobody else is there?
no one else, except those who might be watching it on cable, live if it's being broadcast, but we don't know.
I just,
Oh, okay.
that's my opinion, Norm. I
Leah usually looks at, a lot of the
Yeah.
meetings, so.
how do I say this? Dave's an unsung hero, and I think somebody in the TA staff or the TA needs to know about that when they do his review, as opposed to just their interaction with him. Since we have a formidable interaction with him, not only on twice a month, but during the days and during conversations that we have when we need support. So that's my pitch. I like to give credit where credit's due.
The only thing, didn't you do goals and objectives?
Yes.
Can I review those?
Those goals and objectives were developed in coordination with the planning board. That involved the master plan, phase 1, phase 2, the heights, some various other projects.
Mhm.
That was run through the planning board as a policy guide.
Mhm.
Town center.
You had implementation of that,
Mm.
so forth and so on.
So,
So,
But as far as an actual review,
I know, Norm, that's the TA's prerogative, and that's his,
yeah,
how do I say it? It's his responsibility, but I have, in my experience, when I've managed, I've gotten input from people that have worked closely with the person I'm managing to find out what they do, how well they do, their interactions. And that's why I was suggesting it, since we spend a lot of time with Dave and do a lot of interactions, and he does a lot of support from us. I just think the TA needs to know that, so he can make sure that it's in the review from either the chairman or from the planning board, in my opinion.
I think we should ask Dave to write a letter to the TA telling them the planning board thinks he's doing a wonderful job.
yeah.
I truly appreciate that.
Marilyn, I think that's actually, I think that's a great idea, because put it in his, I mean, I used to get that. I'd get emails or a letter from a manager or a project manager for one of my employees, and I put it right in the review process.
Yeah, but I'm asking Dave to write the letter.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave write the letter, okay.
It's kind of a bit self-serving, but perhaps there's some other, I mean, basically, it sounds to me like you'd like for the town administrator to be aware of this more directly than this being submitted to the town administrator clerk to say, here it is, this is ready for the annual report. You want something more systematic. I don't know if that would come from the chair directly, that would be more appropriate.
I would say it
Yeah,
would
I
be, because
just,
part of
Dave,
your
I wanna
salary
know- I
comes
want him to
from the
let him
town
know that you're
office,
self-sufficient,
not from us.
you're motivated, you
Oh.
get our, you know, you get our packets put
I thought
together,
they
you get
took
all
a
this
certain
stuff done
percentage
that
out of
a
our-
lot of
I
other
don't think
departments
they
have
are.
admins
They're
to
not
help
now.
out with.
No.
So I want somebody to understand that you're a self-sufficient employee that's very productive and useful to the planning board. So I don't know how to say that well enough. Maybe I'm not saying it well enough, but
Just say self-motivated and write the letter.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah.
If I write the letter, if I write the letter, he'll be TA by Monday.
The thing is that, you know, as I recall, I'm sure, number one, I'm sure our present TA figures that you are his employee, you know, not necessarily ours. And secondly, with our third TA, I don't think I've ever had a request or comment, you know, for a review from any of the town administrators.
Hold on, Norm. Didn't we pay $5,000 last year?
Wow.
We did, didn't we?
Didn't we contribute to a salary benefit last year?
Last year,
Don't we have?
Yeah.
I don't think we are now.
Okay,
Is that
all
correct?
right. I want to. Yeah. Okay.
So, do you want me to do
All right,
something?
well, I just thought it was a good idea. I'll bend to the board's wishes.
I think would be a nice thing to have something from us to the TA.
Expressing
Yes, you know,
our satisfaction
you
with
better believe it,
the
yes.
town planner.
Or you could say, expressing that, but also, you know, you could say something about, you know, we not had a town planner, you know, somebody working with us like Dave before, and he's been an excellent.
Mhm. I will see what I can do about coming up with some words for next meeting.
It's made us much
Norm,
more productive.
Give him,
because
make it real simple. Tell the TA that we give Dave 4.75 stars out of 5.
That's all?
Well, you never give anybody 5. That's the rule of management. But you get as close as you can for somebody who does a great job.
Okay.
There's always room for improvement.
Okay, onward. Time's a wasting here. Master plan. flyer, you have a copy of the survey. And I guess we'll start with any comments or questions on the survey.
Okay, page one, number one. How come it's on the, how would you rate the overall road conditions in town? You should have the last thing down here, name the worst one.
Yeah,
I wanna see a list of 10.
I think I live on it.
Yeah, well, you're not alone, trust me. And
Yeah, so,
the next one down, number 3, is how many miles you travel to get to work, one way. If over 40, name the town or city. I'd like to know where all these people are going, and also, it helps to think about maybe in which direction do you try to get a bypass? Do you head it off towards Manning Street or that way there, or you try to pick up extra land next to the railroad tracks and try to get it to Worcester as soon as possible, or something like that? How do you know? You gotta have an idea where the people are going.
you got
I
stuff
think
on
that we're
everything.
with high level, Dick.
Of course.
I do have, I'm sorry, if Tim, that was you, but I have a question for Dave. Was this written specifically for Rutland, or is this the master CMRPC survey for?
Right, so the thing you're talking about is the 2050 plan for the Regional Planning Commission. They are doing their own regional plan for all the towns and cities that are in the service area for their CMRPC. This is different than that. This is specific. This is a specific town survey. This is to address phase 2, which is going to focus on transportation and historic and cultural resources. So this is town specific. And in addition, while we got funding for phase 2 for transportation and historic and cultural resources, this survey does also encompass the buildings and the facilities, which would be a phase 3. But instead of having a third survey, we put all the remaining chapters into one survey. So what Dick was just looking at was the transportation section. That's the first part of the survey. But this is town specific.
And my second question pertains to what you have there. Is it up for review from the board, or is this this is what you've got?
This is more informational for the board's knowledge, because there is a master plan steering committee which has been meeting on a regular basis since last year. That group was tasked with reviewing the survey that was proposed by the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. So the work has really been done to vet the questions and agree that the survey should be distributed, which it now is.
I was gonna say, it's already been
It's already-
distributed.
So
Yeah, it's
this
on
is
the email,
more,
I think.
this is more for the board's knowledge, and also to let the public know that there is a survey. We would greatly appreciate people taking the survey and helping the town with this master plan effort on these remaining sections. And that's
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
This isn't the final survey that's on the website, is it?
this is the final survey. This is what was approved at the last master plan steering committee meeting. There was approval on this version.
I thought we got rid of question 37. I really did. I really thought we got rid of question
If
37.
you got rid of question
Because it's-
37, then I think I'm using a paper version that did not have that change, but you are correct. I'm
Okay,
using,
I
I'm
want to
using,
make sure, because I knew, I was pretty adamant about that at the steering committee, that I did not want to turn this into a he said, she said
no, thank
between
you.
the schools and the town.
No, I appreciate the reminder, thank you. This is the paper copy that I had in
Okay, good
file.
enough.
The final document is slightly different than what's here, but this is pretty much 99% of what is in the final version. It's available if
Okay,
you go to the
good,
town
thank
website, you can have access to the, you'll find access to the survey there. There was a Facebook posting and also an email blast to the public with directions on how to get to this.
Okay, anything else on the survey itself?
And it ticks me off, page 3, number 4, enhance WRTA bus service. Does anybody in this town know how much that's gonna cost us to have the bus come out here? Are you kidding me? Give me a freaking break.
They don't do it for free.
No, and not only that, if the bus came to Holden, we get nailed. All towns around where the service is, that
Right.
next to it, get nailed.
Oh, interesting.
Just be glad we're not next to the railroad.
Yeah.
And Rutland does not need an alternative, they need a bypass. Have you been through Holden for crying out lately? I don't give, and any other, and this is something that, you know, they're coming up a brand new logo for Central Mass Regional Planning.
I heard something about that. Yeah.
Well, I sent them down a thing for crying out loud. They, in my opinion, they should have had a speed train in there, or, you know, some fast trains to give people that, and pod transit. And that's where the 250 was, the 2050 rather, was right there. I said, move the 2050 behind where it says Imagine, faded. I says, what are you doing for Sujatha and Rich from Central Mass Regional? You just left them out. Shame on you.
Well, Dick,
And
if
Trish
you
sent
can
me
have
back,
it number
sorry, you
6.
can't do it, it's already been okay. But to me, for crying out loud, a Bud liner to Union Station, the used to be Providence and Worcester, it's GW now. And to me, for crying out loud, why don't we have a, you know, a high-speed train or a speeder or something like that, instead of picking up people that are going to Union Station or in that general direction. That's why I want to know where people are going.
Yeah.
A long time ago, Central Mass had people standing in Holden intersection, 31 and 122A, stopping at 5 o'clock in the morning. They stopped people, you know, as they were coming through. Where you going? How many miles do you travel? Where you going? How many miles? You know, they want it, and that's how they did their survey. But today, for crying out loud, people, you have a sign up there, get online or do something like that.
Yeah.
And to me, love to know where these people are going, so you can have an idea of what the heck to do.
Well, it isn't gonna happen in this survey.
No,
Is that-
and
is
to
that
me,
what
for
those
crying out loud,
benches
you know,
were for
how
on
many freaking
122A
surveys do we
and
have?
31 for the bus service, when it used to go through Holden? Is that what those benches are on the side of the road for?
No, those are the
No.
people that hike, all the kids that gonna hike a mile, they have to have a stop and rest period.
Okay.
What a break.
I always wondered what those benches were. I thought they were left over from when the buses used to come through Holden.
Yes, and there was also, back before my time, a trolley that came out of Worcester and turned into Jefferson and went down by the Jeff Post Office to turn around and went back.
I remember
Oh,
our friend
okay.
talking about that.
Yeah. And to this day, right now, I feel that we should be using Mass Central Rail Trail, which is owned by DCR. We should have a road right beside it as a bypass. And or a pod transit. And I'm gonna stick with pod transit because why isn't Worcester Polytech or somebody else coming up with a new model of transportation? Have anybody here heard of any new transportation at all? Nothing.
Electric cars are
Yeah.
getting to be, the buses
But we
in
should be
Worcester
one
are
more
all
step,
electric now.
we should be,
Onward, onward.
yeah. And Worcester has no
Okay.
more electric buses because they all failed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
Guys, I'm gonna just say,
Okay, go ahead.
say one thing. WPI, way back, I'm not sure what exactly when, but they were trying to build a tramway, and I don't know how far they got with it, but from their campus in Worcester to Boston. And if you know where to look, you can still see the part of the building where it was supposed to take off and head east.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. The committee, we had a couple of members that have not attended, like, the past 6, 7 meetings, whatever it was. So, Dave sent out a little blurb to them and got a response from 2 of them that they actually resigned from the committee,
What committee is this?
steering committee,
The master plan.
master plan
Oh,
steering.
master
the
plan.
master plan.
Okay. The master plan steering committee is appointed by the planning board, if you remember. So we have a couple of options. We can go out and look for replacement because the charge is that it will be a 9-member, I believe, committee. We can go out and look for new members, or we can vote to reduce the size of the steering committee to 7 members.
So moved.
So it's actually 9 members?
Yeah. And
So, Norm, who resigned? I guess I didn't know.
Is that relevant to this?
that's not, yeah, that isn't really relevant.
No, I meant, do we have 2 members resign?
Yes.
Okay. I don't
Any-
care about names, I just want to know.
Yeah.
So we did have 2 resign, so we have 2 open slots right now.
Yes.
And I just made a motion to drop it to 7.
Second.
I'm fine with that, because, Dave, don't we have trouble getting quorums almost every meeting?
Yeah, well, so when this started out a year ago, we had a couple of meetings when we had 9 and 8 members attend for the first 3 meetings. And then it dropped down to 5. It's been hovering around 5 from then until the present, with one time when there was 4. So the median participation is 5 members, so that's not been a problem so far. We had an issue once where we had to cancel a meeting. But 5 is cutting it close. So if the board keeps it at 9, 5 is cutting it close.
I also,
So, I guess, Norm, I would, do we need to make a motion to reduce the master steering committee from 9 members to 7?
What do you think I just did? And Marilyn
I
seconded.
seconded. But Norm, you were gonna comment?
yeah, I just, there are 2 things. Again, I'm in favor of the motion in general, but there are 2 things regarding that. Number 1, our chances of finding people at this stage of the game, what I mean, to just, look how hard it was for, what's his name, to get the Economic Development Commission members. And number 2, even if we found someone, they're coming in right in the middle, you gotta catch them all up to date, and all that kind of nice stuff. I don't think it's a good idea. So, that's my discussion part. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
I'll have one. Do you feel that Central Mass Regional Planning is doing a good job in what they're doing?
Can I ask how that ties into the issue before the board at this point?
Just asking how the master plan is coming along. Do you think it's
Oh,
coming
as an
along?
update, I'm sorry, as an update to you as a board member.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost track. I know
That's
there are so
okay.
many boards and commissions, I thought you were. Yes, I mean, the master plan steering committee was working closely with the regional, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, which has expertise in creating master plans.
Yeah.
So they're doing all the technical, correct things to push the master plan forward. We do rely heavily on the master plan steering committee for their involvement, which is very important. So, I mean, the CMRPC is well experienced with this type of project, and they are doing what you would expect of them to do.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They're doing a lot of heavy lifting on this.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and Dave and Norm, I think Dominique has done a phenomenal job through this whole process in leading.
Mhm.
She's just done a great job of always being on top of things, and even though maybe the committee's faltered with people, I still think she's never faltered in one meeting I've been on.
So. Okay. Roll call vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Marilyn?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Norm? Aye. The committee is now 7.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Alternate delegate to CMRPC. And this is, I think you said this is Selectboard's
Correct.
choice. So, what do we need or what should we do?
So the idea, I think, for here is to publicize it to the public. Folks who might be interested, maybe a brief explanation of what the delegate does, so people will at least have a sense of whether they're interested. And if you could maybe speak to that for a minute or so.
Just, they have a lot of meetings. Yeah, I try to attend as many as possible. And that's how we get our DLT,
Yes.
DLTA,
Mhm.
the hours.
Hours, yeah.
And it's very good
Mhm.
information. I mean, it's 20-something years I've been on there,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Do we need to do any kind of special announcement or whatever, or anything? Is that something on the website, or?
I think there's a boards and commissions page on the sign indicating vacancies.
There
I
is. Yeah,
am not 100% sure if this is listed as a vacancy. If not, it should be, and that's a follow-up item.
yeah, I don't think, the electronic sign doesn't list them.
No, it's a notice that there are boards and commissions vacancies. To
Right.
find out more, go to.
Too.
the
Okay,
site.
oh,
I just,
okay, so,
I think if maybe just helping to publicize it tonight for anybody who might be interested,
yeah.
might help just try to get the vacancy
And
filled.
it starts July 1st,
Mhm.
their term.
Okay,
I think if you have the opportunity, it's important to include the fact that about the hours that the town gets, and how important it is to them. There is a major benefit to the town.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mhm.
Yeah, those hours are important because that's
Yeah.
actually staff support
Yeah.
in a lot of cases.
So,
It's staff support that we don't have the capacity for,
right.
so we're getting it from the Regional Planning Commission.
Mhm.
Right.
And right at the moment, I believe there were 4 towns in the Worcester County, and Rutland is one of them that has 24 hours on it.
Which is the maximum that
Which
could
is
be
the
obtained so far, which,
Good,
you know.
good. Kudos to you.
Yeah,
yes.
been well worth it.
Mhm.
But seeing as how you've got paperwork coming out, you may be taking over.
Don't like going to Worcester.
I don't mind going to Worcester.
You know, one thing that just came up as I'm looking through a lot of these things and questions and people's mindsets and people's ideas, you know, 2 years ago was a lot different than today. And by that I mean the amount of people that are driving, right? So when we look at, this is just for point of information, there's no real, you know, I'm just bringing this up as you talk about all the ways to get through Holden and all these byways and pods and all this stuff. And I think about the amount of miles my wife put on her car in the last 2 years versus the 2 years prior to that. And it's drastically different. She's never going to go back to her office. Her company is discontinuing their lease, you know what I mean? So I think there's going to be a lot of that moving forward. So I guess it's just a question for Dave or anybody else. I'm assuming people are talking about that. It's going to change the flow. You know, it's going to change the amount of miles people are driving, the amount of cars on the road, that type of stuff. I think.
Well, I think what you're talking about is important, and that's part of the transportation chapter. So that's definitely a topic which ought to be discussed. It's a good time to do it because that's one of the chapters of phase 2.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a whole different mentality. You know, businesses even follow this trend that don't necessarily, or didn't need to over the last 2 years. Now they realize they can save all this money. I mean, I'm just curious where it could potentially go. You know, people maybe just aren't going to be commuting as much to a job if all they're doing at that job is being on a computer. So chances are they can probably do that same job at home.
At least at Central Mass, they've been doing that at home type of thing.
Yeah.
But they're finding that it's a little bit more healthier for them to get together at least once in a while. You know, they have to do shifting and things like that. But, you know, small groups getting together to work
Yeah,
on
and,
their
you know,
stuff.
it depends on the situation, depends
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
particular
yeah.
job.
Right there,
You know.
depends on the job,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, and Eversource, what we're doing it's engineering again, is that we basically are allowed to work at home 2 days, not all of us the same days, and then because there's meetings and interactions in the office, we're in the office 3 out of the 5 days. So to Kevin's point, it is a reduced amount of miles travel when you're working home 2 out of the 5 days. So there's definitely a cost savings, not only for the company, but for the individual on commuter costs.
And that's one of the things in your survey that you're coming out with here, the master plan, intersections. How many intersections nowadays for crying out, you sit there and you're twiddling your thumb waiting for
Oh,
a
yeah.
chance to get out into it. In the town of Rutland?
Well,
So,
Dick, that's gonna change when the Dunkin' Donuts moves to the left.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, onward to business meeting.
Excuse me, just one quick, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
Before you go on to that topic, I did find the main homepage.
Mhm.
So master plan is the third item down. It's a link, it's a hot link.
Mhm.
If you click on that, it'll take you right to the survey. It's right at the town's homepage.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
Well, I'll make sure to go to it. They'll know who to send it.
Norm, I'm sort of out of steam, but
Mhm.
the one thing for the business plan, I want to know, did we get any feedback from Kevin Quinn or anybody on support for us for some of the topics that we want to talk about?
Okay, I guess, I don't know if we've gotten that far yet, but Dave has taken a look at, well, one of his concerns was procurement policies in terms of paying, you know, to have this done, and I think he's got some clarification on that that he can give us.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we're at.
right, so the update on this is, so it's a great idea to tackle the subdivision rules and regulations. One of the questions I just wanted to make sure the board had some comfort on was whether or not it's an RFP process or not. From what I understand by those who are expert in the procurement laws in Chapter 30B, certain professions are exempt, such as engineers and consultants. So while it's not required to do an RFP, it is recommended as a good practice, at least for the board to consider, a good practice of getting multiple quotes from various engineering firms to see how they come down on price, what their responsiveness is to a scope of services and so forth. So it's not required, but it is recommended. But ultimately the choice is the board's. So that issue, I think, has been settled. So if the board has a decision it wants to make on that tonight, we can then go to the next step on this.
I guess I would ask the board, who's our second and third person we even go to? I didn't even know there's anybody left in the Commonwealth that would service us. Since we're such a small town, you know, we can't go to a large engineering firm because we can't afford it.
Well, the RFP would be, what's it stand for?
A request for proposals.
Request for proposals, so we would be putting out, asking people to come to us with their plan.
That'll be something that just be published in one of the journals?
Yes,
probably.
there's a state repository for this information. I'd have to also check where else it might be published, but there is a state repository for RFP proposals. And whatever other means, on the website, on the sign, other places as well.
But then, do we gotta come up with a whole, I guess I'm looking at time and effort to come up with a whole procedure evaluating each one of those engineering companies.
Not only that, we would have to come up with a very detailed scope of services. that we
Yeah,
would
that's
look
what I'm getting at, Norm, and I'm like, we're gonna, again, don't take me wrong, I'm all for processes, but are we gonna blow 80 or 120 hours on trying to come up with being able to pick an engineering company when we could be using that effort to work with Quinn Engineering, who we've worked with in the past, to actually get some of our work out of the way?
Well, if I could on that point, we don't know if Quinn would be receptive to this. Now, the question was, is there an RFP process? I guess the next step would be to approach Quinn if that's what the board decides it wants to do. And if they're not interested or if they're too busy, then we'd have to get back to a plan B.
Yeah, and that's what I guess I was getting at it. If we've already got an engineering company that's approved for the planning board to do work for us, so let's ask them if they're interested in this process. And I agree, if they're not, then let's go through the RFP process, but
Well,
I think it's gonna be a lot of work on the planning board to come up with.
Having,
I think I'm on board with you, Tim, as much as anything, simply because of the time requirements in going
Yeah.
through the RFP process, the scope, and all of that kind of nice stuff.
and having worked for the state mental health department, but it's the same process. It's very complicated, and it would
Yeah,
take a lot of
Marilyn, that's
time.
what I'm afraid of. We're gonna be blowing a lot of time.
Right.
When we could be using it to actually make
Well-
headway. That's all I'm fearful of.
Yeah, I think
A couple of weeks ago,
Norman,
talking to Janet.
Norm anyway, and Norm and I agree with him.
Yeah.
But the guy that did our zoning map.
And if it's, I think that Dave was
Yeah.
Dave was asked to find out if we had to do it, because the state requires it from certain agencies.
Well, yeah, we had Scanlon
Scanlon.
and the actual map maker, blah, 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 Moran. What was his last name?
Well, let me ask this, Dave, is the state a dollar requirement or a hard and fast rule
I'm gonna talk
requirement?
to her about it.
In the case of an RFP for consulting engineer services, it's a matter of a better practice. Because once again,
Okay.
it's exempt, these types of professionals are exempt, but it's a matter of good practice. It's a matter of seeing what the market is for prices and whether or not entities have the wherewithal to give the board what it wants, for an outcome.
But I think it would also depend on the scope of your process, whatever it is you're trying to do. If you had we're looking at everything in the whole town, then an RFP would probably be required, but from just reviewing bylaws, I don't think that we need that process. We could ask Quinn if he's willing to do it, and then if he didn't, ask if he had recommendations, and I've heard a couple of names going around me here, so.
Yeah, Marilyn, I like your idea. Let's give Kevin a shot because we've already got him, quote, vetted for the town. And then Kevin's been in the business for a lot of years. I like your idea of, hey, give us some suggestions, and that'll give us people to go out to for an RFP.
And they were busy though. That's the problem I'm thinking in the back.
I get it.
Last year,
Yeah.
I just,
um,
I'd like to
dirt
give,
guys
this is my
waited
opinion,
for
give them
Quinn.
first right of refusal.
9 months.
Oh, really?
But I think that's the place to start.
Yeah, I still think a place to start.
If I
Okay.
could on this last side, I'm sorry, if we do approach Quinn, I still think, if I understand this correctly, there would be a contract that would have to be put into place, and that there ought to be a scope that is drafted for Quinn to respond to, so I don't know if we can get together to work up a scope, so that they know exactly what it is the board is asking them to do. Because I believe if there's a contract, there ought to be a scope, and this will be a contractual.
Can we do a preliminary ask of them as to whether they...
And then if they're interested, go further.
And then, if they say yes, they are, then we can
Yes, if I can
know the scope.
yes, if Quinn can indicate that he understands what it is we're asking,
Yeah.
and that's sufficient for them to make a decision, then
Dave and Norm, we've done with, and maybe I'm wrong with Carl and Kevin, we've done like a contract where we bought like a block of hours from them, like say 100 hours. We write 100 hours, here's what we're going to, the scope you're going to work on. When you get to the 100 hours, come back and talk to us. And of course, in that scope, there's, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not requirements, but I'm having a brain death. There's items that we're requiring them to give to us as completed.
And I think what you're
That way-
talking about, Tim, is like an RFP thing, and I think that we need to kind of feel the waters, first of all, without spending an awful lot of time on it.
Yeah, you're right, Marilyn. I think you're just a simple conversation will solve a lot of problems.
Okay, we settled on that? Okay, another thought that kind of came up in my discussions with Dave for these business meetings is, you know, how long has it been since everybody has really taken a good solid look at our bylaws and subdivision regulations ourselves?
That's why I feel that it was nice when you and I used to do it with DCR.
So,
Yeah.
I am wondering if people would be agreeable to having Dave, at, I'm not gonna say every one of these business meetings, but probably most of them, give us a refresher.
How would that work?
So many chapters.
Yeah, we pick, pick off, I'd let Dave do that, pick off a certain section or whatever, and,
As, so that we would be reviewing pieces of it as we go along?
yeah,
Something like
and
that,
and again, it's not reviewing for change, it's reviewing so that in our minds, we have things a little bit more recent and clear.
Norm, is that like,
one side and out the other.
Yeah,
we
well,
did, we were
just do
putting
this.
together the department bylaw where we had like a little projector and just walk through it quick. Is that a good idea for all of us?
It's not the worst idea. And then
Yeah.
you sit there and you read it on the screen.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you've got it in front of you and you see the screen, so it's,
Yeah.
you got two places. I think that's a great idea.
So I think, for example, we would go into subdivision regulations, we would,
Mhm.
so there's a new subdivision that's been distributed to the town hall, so maybe we would start at it at a definitive plan and just walk through it. So what's the definitive plan? Who can make them? What's the application? What's the requirements?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if the board just, look at the chapter beforehand, if there's any questions or concerns that we could, or discussion for those who have a lot of experience, to some of the newer
And
members.
Dave, as we're going through this, if we come up with ideas, we can just make we just make notes and then come back to them when we want to actually discuss the points and each individual. We don't have to get into detailed conversation. We just make notes and then either give them to you or Norm to come up as points down the road for discussion. I don't know.
Or if you just want to have if you just want maybe a refresher on the process. So, what's required for a definitive plan? Maybe it's been a while since the board has seen one, so the form and content. So, locus map, what's a locus map? What should each set have, does this requirement for each sheet of the plan should identify it as a definitive plan? What are the basic requirements? Just as a refresher, I think. The names of the
I think it's a
streets.
great idea. We haven't done anything like that in a while.
Because I think we are talking about some of the I think this might help us with some of the earlier discussions on one of the subdivisions where the board is looking to have accountability for certain aspects of it. So, does this bylaw, can this help with that accountability? We can point to a specific section and so forth. So there's multiple reasons for why the board would want to do this, just to keep fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't think I have that at home either.
Paper.
I mean, I could ask, I'll let you know. I know I have the bylaws, I'm not sure I have the copy of the rules and regulations and that stuff.
So
It's
subdivision
in
rules and
mine is
regulations.
so
Marilyn,
old.
you can ask
This-
you can ask Anita for those. and
Right,
we
I
get
know,
those
Tim,
for you.
thank you.
We can make a
Oh, way back
copy
when.
for you
Yeah.
and give it to you.
If you need a copy, let me know, I'll get the copy for you.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll either copy it on myself or get it from Anita if she has any extra.
Mhm.
That goes for any of the board members, if you need anything on this and anything else, always feel free to let me know.
If it's something we're gonna delve into, I would prefer having a new copy myself because mine is so old.
It probably wouldn't be for myself. Mine is probably just as old as yours is.
Yeah,
Whenever we last revised them,
yeah.
which was
Right.
Yes. It was that long ago.
2001,
I would say probably,
maybe something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so
to the board, I don't think we've touched these since Addison was on the board.
I think it was prior to Addison.
Yeah. Anyway.
Addison was open space, not.
Right.
Okay, do we have
Well,
anything?
because I'm out of steam, motion to adjourn?
Second.
One.
I have a motion to adjourn in a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. In favor, Tim,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Marilyn,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Norm, aye. We are adjourned.